This episode of Radio Spaetkauf is sponsored by Athletic Greens. Their product AG1 is a powdered mixture of 75 vitamins, minerals, botanicals, bacterial cultures, and nutrients from real whole foods. High-quality ingredients with high bioavailability to ensure all that good stuff is absorbed fully by your body. One daily spoonful supports mental fitness, the immune system, muscle recovery, energy balance, and hormone function.
Now, I've been taking AG1 for about a month, and I love it. I take 1 scoop every morning with a bit of water, shake it up into a green liquid and drink it. I usually start my days with a bit of sports, and this little kick I get from AG1, little energy, really is perfect for that. Occasionally I will take out my dog on walks and then I'll bring my AG1 with me. It makes me feel very LA while picking up my dog's shit.
I'm not a huge fan of early morning breakfast, so not only does the mix of 1 scoop of powder with water make me feel like a functioning, healthy adult who's putting good things into my body in the morning, but it doesn't really taste like a green drink. At least not like most of the ones I've tried. The clean, pleasantly sweet taste helps launch me into the day with all the good stuff I'll need before my stomach wakes up and is ready for a big meal. AG1 offers a monthly membership completely flexible and risk-free. AG1 will be delivered to your door every month without obligation and without contract period, so you can pause or unsubscribe at any time. And there's a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you can do a completely risk-free 2-month trial and get your money back, no questions asked. The copper, folate, selenium, zinc, and vitamins A, B12, B6, and C in AG1 support the immune system, so autumn and winter are a really good time to start your AG1 routine. Radio Spaetkauf listeners get a special deal. Sign up at athleticgreens.com/Spaetkauf and receive some free bonuses. A year's supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 drops, which supports immune system, bones, teeth, muscles, and general well-being, 5 travel rations packed in little sachets, and an AG1 starter kit, a storage tin for the fridge, a scooper, and a handy shaker bottle. athleticgreens.com/Spaetkauf.
Radio Spaetkauf. Berlin News in English.
It's Sunday, January the 22nd, 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. This is Radio Spaetkauf. Berlin's news podcast, recording live at the Babylon Kino in Berlin. Yay! It's currently hosting the Danish Film Festival. If anyone likes Danish movies / loves Mads Mikkelsen, then they are playing Danish films. I think we should promote them, seeing as they gave us their room lastminute.com. So I'm Izzy Joxie, for anyone who doesn't know me already.
And I'm Matilda Kaiser.
And I'm Dan, and we'll be your host this evening.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, we're all the Berliners. Well, that reaction was probably more enthusiastic than the one that Berlin Mayor Franziska Giffey got at the opening ceremony for Berlin Fashion Week when she grabbed the mic and tried to play hype woman to the crowd with those exact words.
Oh, no.
Very hard yikes again for our favorite mayor.
That's so cringy.
Hey!
This is the 3rd installment of our Brews and News winter tour, where we've been visiting various local brew pubs and breweries, although tonight we're recording near a brewery, probably, at Babylon Kino, the beginning of our new movie theater winter tour. If you'd like us to come do a podcast pretty much anywhere, I think we can do it in about 5 minutes notice. We are planning on doing a tour of some of our favorite local bookstores, independent bookstores, coming up in the spring, and meeting some of our favorite local authors while we're doing that. But also in the meantime, who knows? Next month we'll be at Protocol.
In the meantime, one of our favorite local authors, Nathaniel Flaken, is going to come on later on in the show, and he's going to tell us more about the Berlin actors in last month's foiled coup attempt. We'll also cover all the things that make Berlin what the CSU chef Markus Söder recently deemed a chaos city. And our second guest, Yevgeny Sonyaev, will tell us what we can do to help Ukrainians.
All that and the headlines you've come to know and love. Why'd I hit the creepy stinger? I've heard people like this one. I don't know. It's not my favorite. I don't know why I leave it in.
So as with every year, the firework debate has kicked off, has been reignited in Berlin. So many of you have already likely heard about the calls to outlaw private fireworks and firecrackers due to the unprecedented number of attacks on first responders and police this year. Conditions in Neukölln were compared to that of a civil war after rescue workers were trapped into ambush situations. As per the most recent count by the Berlin police, 44 suspects were arrested on New Year's Eve for such attacks. So want to guess how many of those 44 were women?
I mean, I know, so I can't guess. I'm looking at the script, so. Dan?
What?
How many of those 44 arrests do you
I
think
feel
were
like this is a
women?
trap. Like, I don't want to be the misogynist who's like, women can't attack cops. But I also know that, like, shenanigans. But I'll also just throw this out. Whenever we're quoting police statistics, that they just lie. So let's keep that in mind.
So, i.e., it was 1, but actually in reality it was 5?
Women? I just meant in general.
Okay.
Like, if there was 44, who knows?
So it was 1.
One woman?
It was 1 woman.
Okay, well.
43 men.
Well, maybe, let's have this be a call up for women to attack police.
Come on, girls!
We can have it all. Oh boy, but I will never be back here. And 126 specific attacks from that night are still being investigated. The debate at the beginning of this year also took a pretty racist turn when politicians were a little too quick to blame young men with Migrationshintergrund for all of the violence.
Of the 282 attacks against police and firemen in all of Germany, 145 of those arrests took place in Berlin, according to a report in the Tagesspiegel. That might explain why the majority of the German Bundesländer don't want to outlaw fireworks at the federal level. Unsurprisingly, most Germans don't want to live in Berlin. According to a recent study by YouGov, 25% of Germans found Hamburg to be the most likable big German city. So go there, raise their rents.
I think they have jobs there, though, or like, I don't know.
Hey, wait till the news later. So do we.
What? Oh my God! What a great teaser.
So maybe the
By we, you don't mean like you and I,
Oh,
right?
no,
Okay,
Dan and
thank
I do
God.
not have jobs. Look at us.
But maybe with increased training that the Berlin police are supposed to get on politically correct language, this may change some people's minds.
I think
Right.
that'll definitely work.
Yeah, I think the thing that is holding people back from moving to Berlin is a lack of police training on politically correct language. And once that's done, boy, the gates will be crushed open. Yeah.
Hamburg is nice to visit. I don't know.
One man who really could have done with some of that training in recent weeks was Kai Wegner, the CDU mayoral candidate in the upcoming repeat Berlin election. The CDU, led by Wegner, thought it was a good idea to ask for a list of first names of the registered suspects with a clear interest of finding out how many of them have non-German names. Ugh. That thankfully sparked
Jesus.
protests from Die Linke, SPD, and the Greens. And the Greens have reacted by ruling out the possibility of a coalition with the CDU. After weeks of leading in the polls, Wegner now suddenly seems to be pretty alone. And even if he still manages to get the most votes, he will struggle to get a coalition.
He will also struggle to get me to name my kid Kai when it comes out. It is scratched off the list of names. It was originally on the shortlist.
It
I
was.
read this
Was
and I
it?
was like, no.
But it would be fine because it would be a not non-German sounding name. So
Thank goodness for that. But apart from that, there's nothing that recommends Kai.
One thing you might want to keep in mind is with my first kid, picked a name I thought was totally wholesome, no negative associations. The month he was born, there was horrible, scandalous men and murderous hurricanes. But so there's no
ground
avoiding
zero. I think we call that.
Yeah,
Me
so
Too ground zero.
there's really no avoiding horrible consequences of naming your child
yes, do you
after
wanna
a
say
man.
the
Me
name
Too
of
ground
your
zero.
child?
Who started
it's
it all
just
off?
private. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know it's weird when I don't. Yeah,
If you don't, yeah.
if you
Anyway.
don't, it doesn't matter.
So just think about
Yeah.
terrible men. That's Dan's child's name.
I didn't know it at the time, but I feel like I have a theory.
worst.
No, there's like a conservation of goodness of names, So like at some point, like they're like, oh, well, it balances out. I'm just saying, you go with Kai, because this is maybe the worst it's going to get.
Well, you had like Milk, in the 1970s.
Yeah.
He was great.
Sure.
It's just later it was like...
Okay.
Well, if you think you're tired of if you're already tired of hearing about the upcoming elections and
or my
children's names, put yourself in the shoes of folks battling chronic fatigue resulting from COVID. Many are demanding more support and research on the effects of long COVID and side effects of the vaccine. On January 19th, the initiative Nicht Genesen, or Not Recovered, set up 400 army cots in front of the Bundestag with pictures of people who are still suffering from long COVID. They also handed in a petition with 60,000 signatures to the Bundestag asking for more investment into research and the expansion of the support structure for people with long COVID, and particularly chronic fatigue syndrome. Do you have any long COVID symptoms?
Yeah, but I think I had them also before I had COVID.
I have fatigue, but I think it has something to do with the not called Kai in my belly right now.
Yeah.
I had a symptom that is not spoken about a lot, which is intense hair loss.
Wait, what?
Yes, like
From
crazy bushels of
Right.
hair from your head.
Right.
So if anyone has had COVID and is wondering why they're losing an insane amount of hair, that's why.
Are you sure it's not the
that'll do it.
vaccine?
Yeah.
I developed a new medical ailment that is extreme. It's very rare and extremely fun. I don't even know what it's called, but tussive syncope, where if I cough too hard, I might suddenly pass out and lose consciousness.
What?
Yeah, particularly if I'm laughing and coughing, if I'm doing anything while I cough. And I don't think it's long COVID, but it's
I think
really
you're
fun.
just getting older.
Yeah. You see, I thought you were going somewhere different. I thought you were going to join
Do a joke.
the like millions of women who have had children, and then when they cough, something else happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Got to rebuild those pelvic floors.
Yeah.
You're not worth it.
I didn't do it the first time.
Come on, it's in Germany. It's like free.
This one's gonna fucking slip and slide out.
And welcome to the most personal Radio Spaetkauf episode
I
today.
know. When the boys aren't here, we can really get into it.
I know. We're going to get in trouble when they hear this.
In another long-awaited move, 22 artifacts known as the Benin Bronzes, stolen from Nigeria, were returned last month after decades of requests falling on deaf ears. 10 bronze pieces were being taken out of Berlin. These bronzes are more than just pieces of art. They represent the cultural heritage and identity of Nigeria. Hopefully, this is the first sign of Erinnerungskultur, or memory culture, also including a reckoning with Germany's colonial past.
Speaking of paying off a massive debt, you'll never guess who has to pay local sex workers 100,000 euros. It's the city of Berlin. The city has to pay the so-called mega brothel Artemis 100,000 euros after falsely accusing them of a laundry list of crimes: tax fraud, human trafficking, and specifically a connection to the Hells Angels gang. Berlin prosecutors tried to cover up their mistakes by keeping the lawsuit going, even after the court proposed a 25,000 euro settlement to be given to charity. Artemis will now donate their 100,000 euros to a non-profit supporting children with cancer. That should teach Berlin prosecutors not to assume the worst of sex workers, who, by the way, have already been forced to pay over 4 million euros in taxes to the Charlottenburg tax office alone because they're considered self-employed. # freelance sex work is work.
In another example of Berlin law enforcement trying to uphold outdated views of morality, the online portal queer.de has been sued for disparaging the memory of the deceased. Yes, this is apparently really something you can be sued for, because of an article they wrote describing the now deceased Joseph Ratzinger, aka Pope Benedict XVI, as being queerphobic. This type of lawsuit can only be instigated by a relative of the deceased and could be prosecuted with a prison sentence of up to 2 years. However, the head of the journalistic union says that no violation of the press codex and no obvious insult against the former pope has taken place. So this seems like an obvious attack against the freedom of the press, and any pope, dead or alive, should not be exempt from criticism.
Or having facts stated about them.
Criticism, also known as facts. It's hard to believe, but there's actually some good economic news to kick off this year. Berlin's economic output rose by about 2.5% last year, above the average for the rest of the country.
Take that, Hamburg.
Take that, Hamburg, yeah. Berlin was also the only city-state, take that, Hamburg, to experience...
I get that.
To experience a reduction in unemployment between November and December. And, although it might not feel like it, we're no longer one of the poorest states in the country.
Again, take that, Hamburg.
Yeah, so slightly less arm, but still sexy. Yeah, still sexy. I mean, look at this. Look up. We are in a mirrored room.
That's true. Babylon Theater, where you can look up and... Okay, let's not...
Okay.
Nope.
Sexy.
Cut that.
So you might have seen the dramatic fallout from the agreement between Green ministers and RWE in Nordrhein-Westphalia to destroy the village of Lützerath for the coal underneath the village. RWE is the largest coal company in Europe and also historically the largest emitter of carbon on the planet. Historically. So hundreds of protesters marched in Berlin in response to the clearing of Lützerath and the coal mining, which will almost certainly push Germany to around 5 to 6 times beyond its proposed climate budget by 2030. So if you want to know more details on Lützerath and what led to the infamous deal with RWE and the Greens, and why the climate movement is so angry with them, then please do listen to the latest episode of Megan's Megacant, where I, Izzy Choxy, talk to friends of the podcast, Megan and Konrad Werner, about the Lützerath, or about the situation in Lützerath in depth, as I cover that in my work that I get paid for. That is what I do. So keep an ear out also over in the next.
Why don't you just go to Hamburg then?
Yeah, why don't you go to Hamburg with your job and your baby?
Maybe I'll call it Kai there. Do you know what I mean? Fit in with the conservatives. So yeah, also keep an ear out in the next couple of months because we are making a spin-off series with wonderful producer Anna Marie on Germany's climate movement.
Yep. Circling back to Berlin Fashion Week, activists posing as models duped runway onlookers at the Adidas reality wear show in Mitte last week. Audience members did not realize that the runway models donning fake bruises and blood were in fact trolling the company with a sham campaign they called Suffering Forward. Culture jamming activist duo The Yes Men sent a press release which stated that the line was designed by Pharrell Williams and that fans could literally wear the toil of workers on their sleeves. Their press release claimed that Adidas had fired their current CEO in favor of a former sweatshop worker and trade unionist, which was then reported on as being legitimate by various news outlets. Imagine working for Adidas's PR team right about now.
I feel like Zoolander did this first. Nope. Okay.
All right.
Derelict. Nope. Okay. Will Ferrell comedies from the 90s. Wrong audience. I feel like if the people
I could
there,
quote like every scene of that film.
Okay.
Sorry,
It just was a stupid thing for me to say then. I feel like if the audience doesn't know that you're culture jamming the fashion, you're just actually doing fashion.
That's
Profound.
a thinker.
Right?
That's a head scratcher right there.
Wow. Lead us into the next segment.
So, welcome to the show. Very good friend of the show, author, tour guide, and out-and-out communist, Nathaniel Flakin, who's going to join us with thoughts on what happened recently with the Reichsbürger attempted coup and what connections it has to Berlin. And also, we're going to talk to us a little bit about the election, the re-election, and who he will be voting for in the upcoming election. So, welcome, Nathaniel.
Hello, Izzy. Hello, everyone. Hello, Radio Spaetkauf people.
Yeah. Hey, so I think you just came from doing a tour?
Yes. I was just walking around in Friedenau, which is like the end of the world. You've probably never been there before.
I have been to Friedenau, sir.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where Rosa
We've all
Luxemburg-
been to Friedenau to look at nice things.
Well, I had never been there except looking for where Rosa Luxemburg used to live. So I was going around there with some people, bothering some nice old people on a Sunday afternoon, standing in front of their house with a megaphone, talking about someone famous who was killed there. And they came to the window, "Why do you have to be here on a Sunday afternoon?" I said, "Well, somebody really world famous was killed in your building. It's not my fault.
So she lived there, but we're here at Babylon Kino, right around from the U-Bahn and the
Rosa
street.
Luxemburg Platz.
So
Yeah,
why
right
is
here.
her Platz here?
Well, she has you don't just name things where people die.
Okay, she left. Okay,
There's
she
like
left Freedom
Rosa
now.
Luxemburg stuff all over the
Yeah,
city,
I
right?
mean,
East
Rosa
and west,
Luxemburg is
dozen different things. This was the old Communist Party headquarters. It was right around the corner, like 2 doors down.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
And
why
her
they named it after
Stiftum's
her.
like round the corner as well, right?
So, are there notable buildings around here or locales?
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff around here. So I actually do a tour around here. This used to be Scheunenviertel, the Jewish district. This is a very poor neighborhood. There were lots of communists, lots of sex workers, petty criminals, Jewish immigrants, a lot of Jewish communist sex workers too. And this is where, 93 years ago, that local Nazi leader, Horst Wessel, was murdered. And right around the corner, there was a commie bar where all the people got together and they said, let's go beat up Horst Wessel tonight. And then they ended up dead.
And now there's a
local
bar there
history.
with shuffleboard.
Yeah. But I mean, good things can come out of people getting together in bars in this neighborhood, Who knows what tonight will bring, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. What are you guys doing after this?
Were you going to beat someone up?
No, I don't know. I'm up for whatever.
I did sort of invoke police brutality against the police at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, but just for the ladies.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a Flinta riot. That sounds like a band.
But you're also on here to tell us a little bit more about the Reichsbürger.
Yeah,
movement, right?
I read an article. I saw some of your writing on the topic, and was curious about our local involvement in it.
Yeah, because we feel like such a free and liberal city, and we just barely survived a right-wing coup attempt. And I feel like we spent the last 3 weeks talking about Sylvester and talking about a couple of young men with firecrackers, and we only spent 3 days talking about the fact that active police officers and soldiers were collecting tons of weapons and preparing a right-wing coup. It was kind of ridiculous, so I think people didn't take it quite as seriously.
Yeah,
as
why
we should.
is that? What's that got to do with?
Why was it
You know?
ridiculous, or why did we not take it seriously?
Why did Germany do that? Was it maybe something to do with the way the people looked? Perhaps?
Yeah, I guess we just don't feel like men with aristocratic, funny names can be that dangerous. But they had a ton of weapons they were storing. They were preparing to murder people. And nobody in Neukölln was going to murder anybody. I mean, a firework here and there.
So there was one of the local members of this. I feel like coup is too nice of a word for it. I don't know. Fascism
Fails
club,
coup,
was going to be maybe the leader of our new judiciary.
Oh, right. A local Berlin judge. I need to check my notes. Brigitte Malsack-Winkemann, I want to say.
So
Birgit Malsack-Winkemann. Judge, if you go to the Berlin District Court and you need to settle something about your building permits, she's responsible for that. She was a member of parliament for the far-right Alternative for Germany for 4 years, and you can follow on her Telegram channel, also a big believer in QAnon conspiracy theories. And she was part of this coup plot. She was going to be justice minister of our new government. So, hey, at least we got some Berlin representation on the new right-wing government, right?
Now, are people like her sort of a typical part of the judiciary in Berlin, or a significant part? I mean, how does someone like that end up working on building permits?
So I just got a request for jury duty. My parents sent it to me, and I'm trying to negotiate with people in Texas. I can't go to jury duty. I'm sorry. And this has got me thinking, juries are a great system anyway, to have normal people, I feel pretty normal.
Sure.
Have people like that pronouncing about what's right and wrong and how law should be applied. Germany, nothing like that. Germany has a caste of jurists who administer themselves, and they're independent. That's really important to German constitutionality. They are a separate power, which means they're out of any kind of control by elected officials. And when they created the Federal Republic of Germany, basically all of the judges from under fascism were just taken over. You had the same people, same robes, applying a lot of the same laws, but we waved a magic wand and said, okay, they're all Democrats now. So it would be unfair to say that German judges are all a bunch of Nazis. It would be fair to say German judges are people who are all recruited by a bunch of people who are all recruited by a bunch of Nazis. Like there is a continuity to these institutions. So you don't find a lot of like secret communists among the judiciary. They never have that scandal. So-and-so was sending secretly weapons to Rojava to fight for the Kurdish liberation movement. It's always people who are connected to the AfD, people who believe in bizarre right-wing conspiracy theories, people who really hate people that they identify as foreigners. That does seem to be a running theme.
So why do communists hate being judges?
Yeah, why didn't they pick me? I'm just really jealous. I wanted to wear the black dress and tell people what's right and wrong, and they didn't pick me. Yeah.
Guys, I think another recruitment drive is out going, like, let's all become judges. Like, not that we're all...
But the
Yes.
real problem with the coup government was Germany has a lot of aristocrats still. And that's something that when we hear about it, it sounds like kind of this funny cosplay, like, oh, isn't that neat? They have a ball and they use funny titles for each other. But aristocrats are still like a real power in the country. They control a lot of the force. And the head of this coup government, the potential coup government, the head of this conspiracy was a guy named Heinrich the 13th Prince Reuss. I feel like people in the English-speaking world didn't quite get how bizarre this is. This is the descendant of the House Reuss younger line that ran a mini-statelet in what is today Eastern Thuringia until 1918. And they're still going on, and the guy's the 13th. You think, oh, that must be son of Heinrich the 12th or something, right? But no. Every single male in this house is named Heinrich. So the guy has 4 brothers who are also all named Heinrich, and they're not named like in a direct family order. So the entire house, everyone is named Heinrich, and they just get numbered one after the other, and then they restart every century. So the guy's Heinrich the 13th. His father is Heinrich the 1st. His grandfather, Heinrich the 34th, and his cousin is Heinrich the 14th. His younger cousin is Heinrich the 14th.
So you think that they were good at organizing the coup because like they had to memorize stuff like that all the time?
I mean, that's like if you grew up in a family like that, right? Oh, this is your Heinrich. This is your brother Heinrich. He's number 7. Like, this guy sounds like he turned out pretty well given the circumstances.
It sounds like it's like the foundation. So do you think in these families there's a race to get pregnant like 10 months before the turn of the century so you can get like the number 1? Right? Like that's got to be status.
And the funny thing is they don't even control any territory anymore, but you could really tell that's what the guy wants back. If he has to live with this silly name, like needs some aristocratic privileges too. And it got into this theory, the Reichsbürger theory, that the Federal Republic of Germany doesn't really exist. You talk about how the First World War was caused by the Rothschilds. What a surprise, German aristocrats aren't huge fans of the Jews, And we're paying for all this, We're giving subsidies to all these aristocrats so they can keep doing their cosplay and keep keeping all these right-wing myths alive. So I was just learning that, the German government has a huge amount of control of what you can name yourself. If I couldn't name my kids something the 13th, and so you could just pass a law that says, hey, no more silly names. We've had 1,000 years of feudalism. We had a whole revolution to get rid of you guys. You just have normal names, normal jobs, no more forests. Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance they could keep being weirdos even if they change their names, though? There may be a more entrenched systemic problem than the names.
Get rid of all their inheritances. I think that would be a good start. Get rid of a lot of the forests in Germany are owned by them, a lot of big companies. Get rid of the castles. Put those all under public control. I think that would help them. What's the word they kept using for the young men in Neukölln? Help aristocrats integrate into mainstream society.
All right. Do you want to tell us about maybe some of the fun tours you're doing now, or the book that just came out?
Oh, yeah. So I do 10, 11 different walking tours. I'm doing a brand new one in a couple weeks about Red Wedding, the #1 most communist neighborhood in Berlin. Guess what % of people in Wedding voted for the communists in the last elections in 1932? What?
80.
Oh, come on. 80?
30. I don't no idea.
38%.
One, I don't know what you're trying to prove here.
Oh, just that Wedding was a very red neighborhood. There were 47% of people in Wedding, so almost an absolute majority thought communism was cool. Yeah, and Wedding is still pretty cool. A lot of working class people there, a lot of artists, and we go through that little river, the Panka, and we look at different parts of Wedding history. Some of the biggest police massacres in Berlin history took place in Wedding. And yeah, I do other tours about...
Sounds like a fun tour.
I do other tours about anti-colonialism and 1968 and just different revolutionary history in the city. Yeah. And I got a book. It's got 9 different walking tours written down. It's available from Pluto Press for 20 euros.
What's it called?
Oh, and it's called Revolutionary Berlin, A Walking Guide by Nathaniel Flakin.
All right, and if we want to find out more about your tours or your book, is there somewhere to find you on the internet?
Yes, Revolutionary Berlin. I've got a WordPress site and an Instagram and a Facebook page, and I'm too old for TikTok.
Okay. All right, so one of the things I love while I'm walking around doing the tours is seeing how high the different signs are in various neighborhoods. So, like who has to, in what neighborhood the CDU has to go above 3 meters, or is it just the AfD? In my neighborhood, the FDP is taking a huge beating on their signs. But
where's that?
I'm looking for it. I'm in Kreuzberg, but not 36. I'm in Sächsisch. What's your take on the upcoming elections?
I am also really happy. I live in Neukölln, not a single AfD poster. You wouldn't even know they exist. So we've got Giffey is running for re-election. Giffey, I guess we all agree that we...
Hey!
Okay,
We're in my boat.
I forgot we got the Giffey fan club here, yeah. No, and she's currently refusing to implement the referendum we just had to expropriate big housing companies. 59% of Berliners voted for it, and she said she can't imagine that. And it's like, well, but then she should make way for somebody else who can do what people in this city want. Unfortunately, most of the people attacking Giffey are way to the right of her. You were just talking about the racist campaign by the CDU. Meanwhile, we've got the hyper-neoliberal FDP. Their big thing is they want to destroy a big part of Friedrichshain in order to build a freeway there, because climate and everything. And then we got the Green Party. I think the Green Party might really well win the election, but like we were just talking about, the Green Party is also the party that just destroyed the town of Lützerath in order to dig up 280 million tons of lignite coal. And so it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of good options, right? It doesn't feel like this spirit in Berlin, all the people who are going out onto the streets, has a voice in parliament. We do have the party Die Linke. They're actually just right around the corner. We could go ask them if they think they deserve our vote. But personally, I'm not very convinced because I love all their slogans. They talk about, we're the ones who don't believe in the market. We're the ones who want to finally implement the referendum. But then they're going to join a government with Giffey. They already said they want to be in a government with the people who are going to sabotage the referendum. And so you're voting for nice slogans, and then every single time they form a government with the Social Democrats, and they do the exact opposite of what they promised in the election campaign. And so I was just talking about Rosa Luxemburg, and this is what she referred to as government socialism. And she said that a socialist party is a party of opposition by its nature. And I think that's what we need in Berlin. That's why I'm not going to be voting for anybody. I always go into the voting booth and I write down, what do I write down this time? Yeah, implement the referendum. I write down with capitalism. And I imagine the teachers who are volunteering there, checking all the ballots, they get a nice hearty laugh out of my spoiled ballot.
And that's all it accomplishes.
No, they count those. You get those in the election statistics. Okay. Invalid ballots. Yeah. There's some countries where there's a big tradition of people spoiling their ballots. Sure.
No, I like the idea that Germany has reached a point where there's no one good to vote for. That's comforting to me as an American. I've always wanted to vote here, and now I'm like, well, I don't know. If no one's good enough for Nathaniel, then screw it.
It's comforting because it's like you have two choices, and we have a lot of bad choices. It's nice that way.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. So I think that, we have some really, really shit choices. And I think also, like, you're right to point out things like the Greens. They've made compromise after compromise after compromise in the last 12 months and made some very, like, adult decisions in the room. But every single adult decision in the room has been against climate targets and pro gas, or in the last week's coal. Yeah, it's fucking insane. But at the same time, Bettina Jarasch, if you care about things like district heating, which is not sexy, but I've been bringing it onto this show a few times, and it is fucking important to care about things like district heating, because this year we're going to sell, or Vattenfall is going to sell its district heating And they have like a huge monopoly over district heating. So Berlin wants to buy it. Bettina is all about that plan. She's already talked to not just Vattenfall, but also the CSOs and listened to civil society organizations and listened to all of their demands on it. And she is taking those demands into the negotiating room. And she's really determined to buy back district heating. And what that would mean is that would mean that we would be able to have under our own ownership the ability to green that by 2030. Without the capital, without the things, we can't really do that much. So I think that yes, on a national level, the Greens have made fucking horrendous mistakes.
The Greens grew faster than they could, and suddenly they're supposed to be the new Volkspartei, and they haven't even internally discussed where they stand politically. And it's really evident in the choices that they're making and how they sent Annalena Baerbock out into the wolves, and they were like, good luck, see ya. And I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for the Greens, also particularly with a lot of what they said in terms of Berlin and the 100, and also Bettina Jarasch does not want to put in the referendum. It's like it's you know.
Yeah, I'm not advocating that anyone votes for Bettina, but I'm just saying that on a local level, there's more complications than just looking at the federal picture.
Absolutely.
But also, the Greens are really trying to scrape back this week. I don't know if you've read, but the leader of the party, Ricarda Lang, she has now started groveling in the newspapers about M100, and she wants to hold a vote.
Well, she's wonderful, but that's the thing. That's the problem with the Greens.
She's not wonderful in Lucerat, but
that's true.
She's
but that's the thing
over,
with the Greens.
Yeah.
You all have like, oh, that person's great. Oh, look at that. Oh, look, they're great. And then it's like, oh, well, you can't, you know.
For listeners at home, Matilda used her hands a bunch there to explain what she was saying.
I am Italian and not allowed to vote, so it doesn't really matter what I say.
Because you're Italian?
Oh, yes, they forbid democracy.
Oh, jeez. That's right.
Isn't there like 30% of adults in Berlin who aren't allowed to vote?
Yeah,
like
25%, I think, yeah.
or 25 or 26%.
What a farce of democracy, you know?
Yes.
Who came up with this?
Yeah.
Kai.
Everyone should be out there in the
Someone
booth
called Kai.
making sure that their vote is counted, right? All right.
Okay, I like how we brought back Nathaniel for that, and it's just Izzy and I yelling at each other.
All right, now you guys go shoot some fireworks at a cop.
Okay,
Awesome.
so
Yeah.
I listened to you on Megan's Megacan last week, and you were talking about how sometimes parties can be more effective in opposition, and I just wondered, so that is kind of like partly one of your philosophies, right? Die Linke shouldn't necessarily be in government, they should be actually in opposition, and maybe they would be able to prevent some of the worst aspects actually going through.
Yeah, my feeling is that in German history, the worst governments for working people have often been the most, in quote, left-wing governments. It's always the Social Democrats who are passing the worst austerity measures, because if conservatives try to pass austerity measures, they know that the trade unions and working people will go out onto the streets and there'll be protests and it'll be impossible to pass. But if the Social Democrats do it, oh, those are our people, those are our friends. It's also the reason why the Greens often have the worst climate policy, because they're the ones who can sell bad climate policy to environmentalists, people who have a certain sympathy for the ministers. Oh, those are our friends, those are our comrades. And I think it's kind of similar, unfortunately, with Die Linke as well, that they're the ones who end up passing. For example, Berlin has the highest rates of deportations and of evictions in all of Germany. And that's weird when you think we have, theoretically, the green, left, progressive, anti-racist government. But they can do it because they have a way to kind of neutralize protest movements. They hire people to be their assistants, and they get into civil society, and they end up corrupting a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, I think we need left-wing and environmental policy parties that are going out into the streets, that are part of disruptive social movements, and that's way more important than who's in parliament in terms of getting good outcomes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Guys, let's hear it one more time.
Thanks, everyone.
On with the news.
I'm going to do the transportation news.
Let's hear it.
Here we go. So it was recently made public that the BVG fired their security company Putz in November after an assault on a passenger that was the straw that broke the camel's back, according to BVG sources. This begs the question of how many straws it takes to break the BVG's back, considering that the number of reported cases of violence and discrimination by BVG security workers and ticket controllers is so high. Also, apparently the BVG didn't have a security company then from mid-November until December. Did anybody notice?
Nope.
Starting next month, masks will no longer be mandatory on Berlin's public transportation. At least for those still worried about the virus on public transportation, walking will be made a lot easier in a few months. A number of streets in Berlin will be closed off to traffic from April to October. It is unclear which streets so far, but the Kiezes Charlottenburg, Wilmersdorf, Mitte, Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, and Tempelhof-Schöneberg have expressed interest, despite the fact that Mayor Giffey has said that an entirely car-free Berlin city center is not close to a reality. It might also still be possible to block the A100 Autobahn's expansion. This is due to the SPD backtracking on its highway expansion plans. In your face, Giffey.
Yeah, it's not close to a reality because you're not letting it be a reality. I can't believe we've been doing the news on the BVG for this many years, and I just found out the security company was a Yiddish word for idiot.
Yeah,
that's I can't believe that. What else is going on?
So the mini campaign trail is heating up and preparations are running at full speed. After the payment for election helpers has been increased from 60 euros to 240 euros, there's been a veritable run on those jobs. By mid-December, 50,000 people had applied for only 43,000 positions that were needed. So the Senate has stopped taking applications. Not that this will apply to a good chunk of our listeners, though. Without a German passport, you're not allowed to vote, and you're also barred from being a helper at the election.
And for doing podcasts about it.
Do I have to leave?
No.
And now it's time for Göran's favorite topic, even though he's not here. Election posters. To start us off with a typical level of photographic failure, Mayor Franziska Giffey sitting with full photo shoot makeup in a dark office, illuminated by a small desk lamp, while she leans over a folder of papers, seemingly reading. The slogan reads, Arbeiten für Berlin.
I thought it was one of the best posters I've ever seen. I think, first of all, no, let's not begrudge. She's like up all night, like doing the hard work of, like, I honestly, cause compared to her other stuff, which was like, hey, I'm doing the 29 euro ticket, like, that's done, like, that's nothing to do with, like, that was the weirdest one that she did. I thought that was like, I really liked, and I've been very critical of her photography in the past. And I have to say, I thought she really turned it around with this one, but, maybe I'm just going soft.
I wonder what would happen if she undid her hair. Do you think that she'd be a better mayor if she just, took those pins out? I'm just throwing that out as a thought. You cannot live a good life with the same hairstyle for that long.
I mean, I don't know. I there is some evidence that, like tense pulling of the hair can affect the way.
Like, she cannot be thinking properly because it's pulling,
There's a poster. I think it's CDU. I've never really been able to tell some of those parties apart. But it was Berlin auch für Autofahrer. And they really big ones along, like, near me on Merringdown, where it's like I know I didn't pronounce any of those words right, but right where people are stuck in, like, it's like 8 lines of traffic, and they're like, no, we need more room for cars. And then, but it's been so great because it's like people have been going through and correcting it, so it says like nicht nur for drivers, and then they did the thing of, like, only using the male ending for car drivers, which is just fantastic. So people also go through a little adding their star and in because it's just like this to be so dense that you're like, who drives cars? I'm pretty sure it's just dudes, right? Yeah. That's
who drives cars well.
Yeah.
And who wants more space for cars? It's dudes.
Berlin. Yeah, it's for cars, but not lady drivers.
So, on a more slightly suggestive note, the FDP's Mario also a name I don't know how to pronounce.
Saya,
is trying to cast himself as a middle-aged right-wing heartthrob. So I feel like this should be the national tagline for the FDP. We do nothing. We are not interested in governing, and we are proud of that. But we do that while recruiting very good-looking middle-aged white men to do that nothing. Do nothing?
I know you didn't...
But sexy.
Wait, you don't actually find him...
Lindner, have you fucking seen that man? Jesus.
Wait, you
Give
think he's
me
attractive?
a cloth. Gorgeous.
Are you
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
No way. Izzy, are you
Gorgeous.
serious?
Yes.
No.
Yes. He opens his mouth, disgusting, I want to puke on his face, but he doesn't open his mouth, and I'm like, oh, I see. Yeah.
Kai Wegner of the CDU, well,
Why are we moving on?
I cannot talk about this.
All right.
I need to respect Izzy.
Okay. And her father issues.
No, you
okay.
don't.
Kai Wegner of the CDU, well, he looks like he'd force me to make me a... I'm sorry, I just remember, I have to say, Jöran wrote this part of the script, and he asked me a question to which he asked me, what does Kai Wegner make you think of when you look at him? And I said, he looks like he'd force me to make me a sandwich. Wegner's favorite poster word seems to be funktionieren. What exactly he means by that is not clear. Guess he thinks of Berlin as a machine that just needs a little oiling.
Yeah, I mean, the CDU, they're so passive-aggressive. There's like nothing on their billboards apart from things like Neukölln, aber sicher. It's like, whoa, fucking hell. I don't know, it feels like really like passive-aggressive. Like somehow they're going to like...
Yeah, well, they know their audience.
Or like the one that is next to my road is Berlin, du brauchst bessere Schule. Schule? I never forget the plural for schools. I never remember the...
Schulen.
Du brauchst bessere Schulen. It's like, well, babe, like, how are we going to do that? By like cutting taxes for rich people? I don't understand the connection between voting CDU and getting better schools. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they should spell that out.
Well, they weren't saying they were going to get them. Right? They're just
pointing
they're like, Berlin,
out.
Get your shit together. And if you, as a Berliner, you're like, oh my God, they're right. I really fuck it up. Sorry, Daddy.
Sorry, Daddy.
Yeah, to get to some less sexy numbers, though.
Jesus.
The latest poll from January 18th still has the CDU winning ahead of the Greens, with the SPD coming in third. Die Linke are projected to get around 11% and FDP 6%. If these turn out to be the results in February, the SPD, Greens and Die Linke would stand a chance of working together to get 50% of the vote. This would make a repeat of the R2G coalition possible, except with a new mayor from the Greens, Bettina Jarasch, so more of a GR2 coalition. After the Greens foreclosed on a possible coalition with the CDU, the Conservatives' only realistic hope is to partner with the FDP and the SPD. It's doubtful that the SPD would be willing to go that way, though.
Meanwhile, there's already been a new election fuck-up. In Neukölln, around 1,700 mail voting ballots were sent out with the name of an FDP candidate who cannot actually be elected. The candidate moved away from Berlin. The ballots will be resent, so anyone who has already submitted their vote will be able to recast. Soon, the longest election cycle ever will finally be over. For those who can, don't forget to vote on February 12th.
What happens if we go into the next election cycle? Never mind. Okay. Shall we? Thank you to everyone at home listening. We really appreciate the audience and the community. It is fantastic. This project is also kept viable by your donations and your support. You can become a monthly supporter or make a one-time donation at radiospaetkauf.com. You can come out to a show and buy a cute mug or a t-shirt, which I made myself. Matilda's wearing one now. That one didn't come out perfectly. And also for just being your... Okay, well, you guys get the idea. You've heard this one before. Oh.
Radio Spaetkauf.
And also thanks to Babylon Kino for being our impromptu hosts this evening. Our next guest is a board member of IWEK
e.V., or is that EVEC?
EVEC e.V.
EVEC e.V. It's one of the associations that has founded the Alliance of Ukrainian Organizations. He's originally from the city of Proviny in the Ukraine, where he worked as a sales and marketing representative for a custom stickers company before serving 1 year as a conscripted soldier in the Honor Guard Battalion based in Kyiv. A master's program in political science has brought him to Germany in March 2022. Please join me in welcoming to the show our next guest.
Hello Dan, hello Matilda and Izzy. My name is Yevgeny. In German it's Eugen, but I prefer my Ukrainian name. So thank you for your invitation. And yeah, that's right.
Honestly, we've been reaching out to aid organizations before, so I appreciate you coming to speak with us. We've often found people are working too hard to take the time to chat with us because there's so much to do. Could you tell us a little bit about Allianz Ukrainische Organisation?
Allianz Ukrainische Organisationen, or in English it's Alliance of Ukrainian Organizations, was founded in the wake of the Russian invasion in Ukraine in 2022. And it's basically a coalition of Ukrainian associations here in Berlin. Some people are Germans, some are Ukrainians, but we work together in order to put all our efforts to help Ukrainian displaced peoples here, and also to allow the people who sympathize with the Ukrainian cause in the Ukraine to help us, actually. And that was a lot of work in the recent days, because according to the statistics, in November 2022, there is over 1 million of people in Berlin from Ukraine. Those people need shelters, those people need help, and those people need some basic things to put their life together. And I would like also to talk about organizations that actually offer volunteer opportunities and with which you can work together. And personally, I like Plast Ukrainische Pfadfinderbund. It's kind of a Ukrainian Boy Scouts. It has a long story, and on the website you can donate some money. And actually, those people can provide you with Spendenbestätigung. It's kind of thing when you return your taxes, you can just pay a bit less.
Right.
So, yeah.
So for people who are maybe looking rather than to donate, but to donate their time, are there things that are you're looking for?
Yes.
Help-wise?
Yes. That's right. So in order to explain the nature of Alliance, actually that's several associations, Vereine in German, that can work side by side or independently. And I myself represent EVEC e.V., das heißt Initiative für Wissenaustausch, Empowerment und Kultur. And our important project is called MedHelp Ukraine. So actually we work together with Charité, with people who have medical background or not medical background at all. Well, the website is called medhelpukraine2022.com. You can go there, and we gather medical support supplies, insulin, for example, antibiotics, and medical appliances that are directly sent to the war-affected areas. Recently, that was Kherson, and before that was Mykolaiv. So actually, it's kind of medical help that is needed by civilians and by military personnel and by all people that are actually were kind of affected. So that's a thing you can take part in. And some people, it's not just you just sit there in the office. Sometimes it's just you need to provide a couple of couple of meters of your flat to store there some supplies and then send them on their way. Really? For example, because they our transporters, they collect those medical supplies and then go to another location. Also, there is a good place which I personally also like. It's called ukr.dim, ukr.dim.com. They were looking for some volunteers, and I personally know the guy who is the site owner, I would say, who works for this organization. He's IT guy, and they sometimes, from time to time, they need some guy who can just write a couple of articles for them, or just set up some additional website. And I don't know exactly, but some guys were working on the mobile application for people who are displaced, who found themselves in Germany. So actually it's all sorts of works, and it's a good thing to do, because there is no small help. And I see that Berlin is changing a lot, because for example, I walk on the streets and I see the doorbells, and there are new familiar Ukrainian surnames. And the main thing to understand is that those people, they did not know that they will be here for a long time, because they said, okay, maybe the invasion will be fanned off and they will go back to Kiev. But now the Russians, they decided to target civilian infrastructure, and I think it's going to be last for a couple of years, maybe more. That's why those people first, they thought that they will not settle here in Germany, they will not have to face all the horrors of German bureaucracy. I have to say that, but they have to cope with that, and they have to integrate. Of course, it's their responsibility, but they also need your help and your sympathy, and that's the best you can do for them.
Let them know they can totally not integrate too. I mean, just start a podcast and do the news in whatever language you need.
Yeah.
Are there any misconceptions or surprising needs that you've heard from people?
Well, let's talk about misconceptions, some more important facts that I'd like to talk about. First of all, the thing was called in the news as Ukraine-Krieg. Well, partially true, but the right term that at least used in Ukrainian outlets is Russian-Ukrainian war, because there is also the side that invaded and the side that is defending. And this war did not start on the 24th of February 2022. It started in 2014, because since then the Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have been dying, and when we say just the war started in 2022, we kind of cut off all that 8-year period through which people were suffering. So the war is going on 9 years and still counting. So that's the first thing I would like to kind of inform you about. The special needs. Well, recently I worked with Polnische Sozialrat. It's kind of a Polish organization that helped us, and they also gathered information about people, about Ukrainians here. And one of the most important thing was about language. So kind of a misconception that Ukrainians speak Russian, only Russian, not Ukrainian. Well, partially true, but that happened not because they wanted to, but because there was a very, very long inheritance of colonialism, and Ukraine, it was a kind of a colony to Russians. And since all those years, there is no other place in the world when Ukrainian language can be protected. And the only place is Ukraine. And it's better first to ask, which language do you speak? And sometimes people who have their first language as Russian, they opt to choose Ukrainian, speak Ukrainian. Why? Because they fled from areas which faced Russian invasion, and Russians came to them and said, well, you are no longer Ukrainians, guys. Let's embrace our brotherly love, which also end up in death. And that's the thing I would like to know. Well, Ukrainians speak many languages. There are also Ukrainians of German descent, and but identity, national identity, is much deeper than that. It's much deeper than your first language, much deeper than your upbringing. It's kind of identity. It's who you identify as. And many Ukrainians are Ukrainians because they chose to be that way, not because they have grandparents from other countries. Basically, it's civil nationalism, like here in Germany. You're German because you have passport and you obey the laws and you respect the laws and you respect the traditions of this country. So Ukrainians, by default, they would like to be addressed in Ukrainian. And if they do not speak that language, which sometimes that happens also, well, then I guess some of them also speak English. So that'd be the right choice.
Do you want to tell me a little bit more about your particular organization, that's part of the Alliance, and your projects, such as the Verfügbares book?
Oh yeah, that was interesting because our project, which is called Verfügbares Buch, I can translate this as a reachable book, so a book you can reach. So that was kind of funny because my friend was the main author of the idea. He came to Dussmann Kulturkaufhaus on Friedrichstraße. It's like a huge bookstore network of bookstores. He said, well, there are new people coming here, Ukrainians, and there are some children. They need to go to correction classes at school, so they need to learn German as fast as they can. Do you have any literature for them? Do you have any like Wörterbucher? How can I say, like dictionaries for them? Yeah. Yeah, we have some Russian dictionaries, some Russian books. Well, do you like them? Yeah. Well, that was a bummer.
Right.
And he came up with the idea, and I joined in, where we can contact the Ukrainian, publishers, and bring some books from over there here to Germany. And we started to contact libraries like Stadtbibliotheke, some libraries of the cities, some schools, and also organizations. Well, do you need any Ukrainian books? And some people were, yeah, please, he can bring to us and we can take a look. And it turned out to be well, and right now we have about 16 points in all over Germany, from Augsburg to Greifswald or Stralsund, up in the north, near the Baltic Sea, when the new people are coming, and they are kind of glad to have those books, because after all those horrors, after living in occupation, some people need to relieve themselves. They just go there and buy in Ukrainian language, like Bridget Jones' diaries or any just book for kids with fairy tales, and that's a good thing to have. And first, if you respect your own culture, you respect and appreciate the culture that invited you. I mean Germany particularly, because there are so many criticism about German government not like sending weapons and so on. I understand that there are many reasons for that, and I will not dive into that. But starting with simple integration, simple like having your mental health like together after all those stresses, after like Behörde and so on.
Yeah.
When you have those books, you're happy and can relieve yourself and feel yourself more like you are at home. So that project was kind of important, and we had also protection from Alliance, other associations in that Alliance, and actually that's the project that will live on, and I hope that will bring also some value to German society too, because some books also are printed in German language, because some authors who wrote in German, they were from Ukraine, like Paul Celan from Chernovitz and so on. So, yeah.
I mean, you said you didn't want to, I think what you said is you didn't want to talk about it, but do you want to speak to the idea of the factions of Germany that are hesitant to send weapons, or the people that feel that it's not
Das ist nicht unser Krieg.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, guys. I'll tell you about this, because as a person from Ukraine, I remember my childhood and some I would say, how can I say this? Like information areas, yeah. Some of those things were overlapped, like Russian information areas, some TV shows and news were overlapping with Ukrainians. And I used to see like Russian news in the childhood. And well, why do I say that? Das ist nicht unser Krieg. This was a slogan that discourages Germans from helping Ukraine. They say, well, it's not our war. Ukrainians should settle this dispute with Russia. We should be not involved. But, well, let me tell you this. Since I watched those news, since I watched those like hysteria, every 9th of May, you can see the parade in Moscow, which they celebrate, kind of became like a cult. And they rejoice in the thing that happened many years ago after many losses of Soviet citizens, Ukrainians, Russians. They still want to settle their score and once again start a war. And if they decided to invade Ukraine right now, do you want to take chances? Do the Germans want to take chances and see if Russians will spare them? Because they say we are in war with NATO, Germany is in NATO. So technically speaking, it's the Russian-Ukrainian war, not a German war. But we don't know what an aggressor will do in the future, because appeasement of an aggressor, it never led to a peace, to a settlement, and until he's fended off, he's gonna try for more. That's why I'm sorry to bring the bad news. I'm sorry to be the bad messenger, but it is already a war against civilization, against the rules, against the rule of law, and it can be bad, it can be like not perfect like in Germany, in Western countries, but it can be totally worse when a terrorist state, which Russia is gradually transforming into, can have a go at you. So,
okay. Do you mind if we do a quick Q&A before we wrap up? If anyone in the audience has any questions?
Sure. I'm ready.
Okay. I didn't prepare you guys for that, but we had the time, and I thought you might, if you're curious about volunteering or donations, you can go to the websites. Yes, go ahead. Okay.
What is the thing that surprised you the most about German hospitality?
Well, they are different. I mean, you know, I remember because when I first came here I first started my education in Greifswald, that was north of Germany, and I first had my job at Aktivschuh, and it was like a store when you sell the shoes. And I remember my first boss, Frau Tessmann, and I felt myself very stupid because I did not speak like proper German, and still I'm struggling with it. But I just tried to work, and although she was very formal, she always referred to me as Herr Sornyaev, Herr this, Herr that. They respect your personal space. They respect everything, and they respect their personal space. You cannot just cling to them, at 3 a.m. and said, "Come on, dude, let's go party," or just trying to, I don't know, I was trying to assemble like Schrank.
Cabinet.
Yeah. And 3 a.m. and the guy was calling on my door and said, sorry, dude, you're too late. And I was like, okay, sorry, I did not know that. So Germany is more about restrictions than freedoms. and that's the beauty of it.
Yes. It's a good thing.
The beauty of it is that after Ukraine system, which was not really regulated, and basically there is a huge gray zones, you just do whatever you want. Sometimes you have a good friend among politics, among police stations, and you can just set something with your friends. Here it's not goes like that. On the ground zero, there is laws. Please follow them. Like them or not, you have to do that. And I remember I myself waited for 3 months before I got my prolongation of my stay, my documents of my staying here. It's called Aufenthaltstitel. That was the worst of the worst. And I was waited. I emailed. And how did I come out of this situation? Well, you have to write your paper letter. You have to with Schreiben. So you have to they have to you pay a bit more. And they write a reply. And I started to bombarding those letters every Monday. Took me 3 weeks, and then I got a reply. And the co-workers of that service were so nice, smiling to me. And that felt kind of a reward. And I see that, well, no matter how painful those laws are, if you follow them, there is some reward for you. Hard-earned reward, and after the land of absolute freedom, sometimes you have to have more structure. Yeah. And Germany brings those structure, and you have to adopt. Yeah. That's it. But German hospitality, I know a person who never knew about Ukraine. He was born in Hamburg, in Western Germany, and he used to look on the map on his school. It was a huge rose blob of Soviet Union. He never knew Ukraine existed. But right now he's punished because his partner is a Ukrainian, and he helps and sends donates and prints stickers for us. And I think this guy deserves a Ukrainian citizenship after all. But well, if Germans like you, they feel like you kind of a person they can deal with, you're kind of a predictable, you obey the laws, they feel like, okay, I may be a friend with him. And then there is a slow process when they get to know you, and actually that's
If you put in
actually
the
happens
work,
when you migrate. Well, you can attest to that.
if you put in the work, there's a sweet juicy center there. It's just how many licks, does it take to get to the center of that Tootsie Pop? To quote an old ad from America that no one is gonna get. I really appreciate you coming to join us. We will include the links to your socials and to your websites and everything for anyone who wants to follow up and learn more. Thank you for asking that very nice question. And hopefully we'll see you again under less duress.
Thank you so much, Evgeny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matilda, Dan, Izzy.
What? Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, events, goings on, recommendations, plugs. Anyone want to start, or is it me first?
You go first.
Me. So I am doing a tour on the 4th of February. This is one of my social movements tours. I've plugged it on the podcast many, many times, but I'll plug it again. So the 4th of February, I'm going to do the social movements tour. It's starting at 2 p.m. at Martin Luther statue in front of the Mariannenkirche at Alexanderplatz. So the social movements tour, the idea is to talk about social movements that happened in 19th century Berlin. So the 1800s, a 70-year period from 1848, starting with the 1848 year of revolutions, and then finishing with 1919. The German Revolution. So starting with Karl Marx and ending with Rosa Luxemburg, and talking about why is it that the largest social movements in Europe happen to be in this city. So what is it about the city that makes it so prone to social movements? So yeah, that's my plug. So come on the 4th of February, and can't wait to see you guys there.
If you want to laugh, come to Comedy Cafe Berlin. There's shows Thursday through Sunday, and a pretty good chance you'll see me.
Why do you maintain a separate address at this point?
Why do
They
I
don't have showers there, I guess.
There are no showers.
Yeah, okay, that
yes,
makes
yes.
sense. I'm launching a new show up in Pankow called Slingshot Comedy. You can come out to see some things, or go to my website where I plug. It's turndaniel.com, and you can come see me do jokes. It's kind of a different context because we don't tell the news. I don't know.
You have to with Dan and
that's right.
Follow us.
Slingshot Comedy is going to be starting at Two Fellas Brewery, where we did our recording 2 months ago. But I'm also appearing at other places in town, and you can check out my merch at oatmilkdaddy.com, where I'm selling graffiti alphabet posters and books for parents or uncles who want to read to children, songs. I'm so tired, you guys. Anyway, I don't know. Cut everything I just said. One more shout out to Babylon Kino. And am I forgetting something here? No, okay.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks to our guests, Babylon Kino, and yeah.
And.
Spaetkauf.
Oh, yeah, we're not done.
Okay.
And thank you very much to our producer and writer of the script, Anna Marie Harrison. And also for Sebastian Philippe for editing the audio of this show as well. Thank you very much.
Joel for just sending me photos of sunsets and waterfalls, and really living it up. And additional writing and support from Yuri, as always.
That's
We'll
right.
be back next time.
Month.
May I? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you guys again for coming out to this very interesting show.
Radio Spaetkauf.
Remember that one time with the dick?
Berlin News in English.